Oh, yes. What Tom was talking about the film being having more to do with Britain than it's actually letting on. You have to realize this was about 1982, so early 1980s, where a lot of things were changing, because the 1970s, obviously, in Britain was a horrible time for them. You know, the 3-day work week and hung parliaments and this and that, which they're about to have anyway in about 2 weeks. But the hung parliament, not garbage in Leicester Square. And then you have Thatcher coming in, and you have the Falklands War, and you have this kind of this change that's going on within society. But more than that, I think it has a lot. It is obviously autobiographical. But before I go into that, I'd like to talk about the anachronisms within the thing as well. I mean, you've got his father supposedly died in the Second World War, whereas this is very much a First World War, the trench warfare that you see, and then the plane that you see, you know, that kills him. That reminds you of 1970s planes, you know. So it's got this whole thing about Britain and the problems with Britain, and that it's not something that's related to him, but it's been there before, and it will keep on going on, kind of thing, you know, that he talks about. And essentially, what finally you know, makes him kind of go off the rails again has something to do with his father. It's very much a thing about his father, about the country, about things that actually made him who he is. He detests them, yet without them he wouldn't be who he is. And finally, which is very important, I think, again, it's about rock music as well. It's about being a rock star, and you know, again, he doesn't particularly want it. You see him very much like a Mick Jagger, you know, marrying Marianne Faithfull kind of days, you know, with and then you see him more in a punkish way, and completely the troubled romantic, and then completely lets himself go and becomes a drug addict, you know. And it's very much about the way rock music and rock stars have gone through that continuum.
I know, Tom, you're saying, oh, boo-hoo, I'm a rock star and I take too many drugs and women want to sleep with me and wah. But I think the fact that we see his childhood and we see his sense of abandonment and rejection from a very early age, the scene where he's in the playground and no one wants to push him on the swing and no one wants to catch him at the bottom of the slide, and it breaks my heart. His little rat friend dies. He gives him his little sweater vest. I love Comfortably Numb. It's so beautiful. And like the little sweater vest scene just breaks my heart. So I think that all fleshes him out and makes him much more human than just some narcissistic ninny who does too many drugs.
Well, Roger Waters is an enormously talented rock and roll musician. And his knowledge is very deep about music. I don't know how many of you know that Pink Floyd are named after two Chicago blues musicians, one named Pink, the other Floyd. That's how they began. And another thing I was thinking during the movie, because the theme obviously is insanity, he plays as though he doesn't have a high opinion of his own sanity. The original guitarist was a fellow named Syd Barrett, who pushed the band from a simple British blues rock band into the spacey, dramatic, very, well, what you see in the animation is how their music sounds. It's done very well. It was pushed by a man named Syd Barrett, who I believe today, if he's not dead, he's still in insane, did he die? He's in an insane asylum for the rest of his life. But Syd began moving the Pink Floyd albums into this spacey, trance-like, hypnotic, very surrealistic direction, which Roger took on. And I couldn't help but thinking while watching that Roger has questioned his sanity ever since Sid went off the wire. But there is, you cannot deny that someone like Roger Waters, and there are very few such people, has an eye to the public all the time. So the theme wasn't original in this movie. There was a meme going on, M-E-M-E. Read Roger's blog. We all love to use the word meme. An idea comes, we use it, and people imitate it like crazy. The meme, sometime before the film came out, was that rock and roll prevented World War III. So that oh, you're laughing, are you? Well, I think you owe me a debt of favor here. I used to bang my balls off, and so did everybody else. It was an explosive energy that young men had. that wasn't in the music before then. It's true. I used to watch Hitler, love Hitler films, and watched a band of young men playing, going under Hitler's window after he was chancellor. And the way they were playing flat showed that these men were so angry, they were just ready to kill anybody. Well, rock and roll, you turn the thing all the way up and you feel this great sense of power, and it explodes out and the audience loves it and they don't die. So that's how it got around among us rock and roll intellectuals that we prevented World War III.
Supposedly, speaking of Sid Barrett, supposedly the chest shaving scene, which I heard lots of cringing going on during that. I've seen it a million times. I still can't watch it without my fingers over my eyes. Supposedly, Sid Barrett inspired the eyebrow and chest shaving scene.
And something that Tom just mentioned, the animation, Gerald Scarfe's animation, I think, is one of the things that people, even if you haven't seen the film before, you've definitely seen the kind of the transmogrified version of Gerald Scarfe's animation in the video for The Wall Part 2, you know, and there is in fact we were just talking about it. It kind of reminds you of those of Terry Gilliam's animation sequences from Monty Python, again something that influenced British rockers in the 1970s, incredibly so, the visual style at least. So it was it is a fine marriage of the music, which, and I'm not a big fan of Pink Floyd, I must say, but you know, but it is. But if you see it like this, you know, a huge screen with a fine director and a personal story, and then all of this, you know, all married together, it does resonate.
I'm glad you mentioned the animation.
Agreed.
If you may. Supposedly Roger Waters, Alan Parker, and Gerald Scarfe all sat together in Gerald Scarfe's home and pretty much storyboarded the entire thing based on the album and what images should go with certain scenes. And one of the first was the flowers, the very erotic flowers that then turn into monsters that then destroy each other. And I guess there was a lot of fighting back behind the scenes as far as how much should be live action, how much should be animated, and so it wasn't exactly a happy shoot.
Yeah. Also, another thing though, the film doesn't seem to have a very positive, view of
anything, basically.
Of anything, of course, yes.
Life.
Yeah. I was trying not to laugh. Yeah, but especially human sexuality, and there is you can't deny the Oedipal undertones of certain scenes, especially the first time that he goes into his mother's bed, and there are incredibly disturbing scenes, but coming with rock and roll, and then again, it's something that penetrates you, when you're watching it.
A point here, I was thinking of that same thing during the movie, and I was going to call on our London correspondent. Are you here, sir? All right, is it true that Englishmen have no balls? He's laughing, that reveals something, but we need a definite yes or no.
I thought it was rhetorical.
No sex, please, we're British. Yes, everyone remember that.
Thank you very much. So that's where that comes from, but
it was really interesting.
Yeah, sorry, everybody.
We'll do it with hand puppets later on.